It's been 20 years since we've seen a Republican running all the levers of power in the Empire State. It's my next guest, George Pataki. He didn't only do it once, he did it twice, he did it thrice. 3 terms, a Republican governor in this bluest of blue states. And I think back in those days, it was even bluer. But I'm showing my age. The governor still looks quite young and fit. Good to see you. Governor, I was distinctly recalling that race and covering it at the time where no one gave you a serious chance. Early on, you were trailing Mario Cuomo, who was, trying to make it a three-peat. And very close to Election Day, he was still up by double digits. You pulled it off. And I'm just wondering, you seem to be the only guy who thought you could. Are we missing? The polls did not appreciate the magnitude of what was going on. Do you think the same thing's happening now?
Absolutely. I think the polls are way out of line because I'm out there talking to the people. And as you said, back when I won the first time, I honestly thought I was going to win because I'd be at train stations. I'd be at grocery stores standing out front talking to people. And I understood the desire to change things. And you see that now in New York. It's not just Republicans and independents. Democrats overwhelmingly think the state is headed in the wrong direction. And when you think things are headed in the wrong direction, why do more of the same? So I think Lee Zeldin has the best chance any Republican has had since I won the last time.
I was hearkening back to that race, even with my young staff, Governor, who couldn't believe that you were dismissed to the degree you were at the time, but you were. But you pounded 2 themes that sound eerily familiar: crime and just the economy and this recession that was gripping and the inability of those in power to do anything about it. Yet in New York, it was thought, yeah, the House might change, maybe even the Senate could change, but the executive mansion in New York, that is not going to change.
It was the same issues. It was crime as the overwhelming issue. When people have a sense that they're not safe on the street or in their homes, they're going to look for an alternative. And Lee Zeldin has hammered crime, correctly so, for the last few months. It is out of control in New York.
But you were up against an icon, too, taking nothing away from Kathy. I mean, you were up against the inimitable Mario Cuomo, who passed up a run for the White House when it was his for the taking. We were told. And here, this unknown Peekskill, New York mayor, you had all, the credibility and cachet, but you didn't have the name recognition. You were literally David up against Goliath. But what did you see in that race that you've reminded Lee Zeldin about since?
There are 2 things to win as a Republican in New York. First, the voters, including Democrats, have to think the state is heading in the wrong direction. That was the case when I ran. That's the case now. And the second thing is they have to have an incumbent governor they don't think is doing the job. If it was a new Democrat, they could run saying they're going to change everything. Cuomo had been in for 12 years.
Right.
People understood what he stood for, and they may have liked him, but they thought he was a poor governor and were willing to give me a chance.
Things had turned south, right? Crime had started to rise.
We were the most dangerous state in America. We had the highest taxes in America, and we were last in private sector jobs. Today, we're headed towards being one of the most dangerous states in America. Our taxes are among the highest in the country, and we lead the country in people leaving the state to go someplace else. So you have very similar factors, and you have an incumbent governor, and when you talk to people, I talk to Democrats every day, they have real doubts as to whether or not she's up to the job. On the issue of crime, we're going to do more about guns. It's no BL. It's prosecutors who don't uphold the law. It's not standing behind the police. That's why crime is through the roof. The people across the political spectrum know that. And that's why I think Lee Zeldin has a very real chance on Tuesday.
You know what I remember about that period, Governor? The Cuomo camp thoroughly dismissed you. I think they even ran ads. Who is this guy? Can pronounce his name, and where the heck is Peekskill?
His camp did, but Mario Cuomo didn't. He knew me, and
he knew enough that you got to be concerned.
When the day I ran, he was afraid to debate me.
Let me ask a little bit about that then. Right now, Governor Hochul, who just sort of ascended to the job, she didn't get it outright electorally, but her inexperience might be showing here, and that's something that Lee Zeldin wants to capitalize on. But in New York, it's an odd situation, right, Governor? The Democrat normally racks up a huge win in the New York City metropolitan area, loses everywhere else.
Right.
You kind of limited Mario Cuomo's win in the New York metropolitan area and just swamped him outside the state. And you repeated that in 2 more elections. But that blueprint seems to be lost on people. Is it tougher to do today, or was it tougher back in your day?
I think from a demographic standpoint, it's tougher today, but from an issue standpoint, it's every bit as easy today. I think Lee Zeldin, the conventional wisdom is it needs 30% in New York City. I think he's going to exceed that.
Really?
I talk to Democrats every day, and they're going, we can't have any more of this. This is not working. I go to my office, and there's nobody there. And part of the reason is remnants of COVID, but part of it is fear of crime. People don't want to ride the subways. And when you're afraid to ride the subway.
So that could limit, in other words, voter participation or enthusiasm in New York for the governor.
Yeah, I think it would limit enthusiasm, but also create support for Zeldin. So I think I think he will exceed what he needs to do in New York City. He's going to blow out Long Island. He's from Long Island, and people there.
But you were part of a wave, Governor, right? If you think about it, I was going back. What an amazing year that was. Not only your upset that was heard around the world, but what Republicans did in the House, taking over the House, the Gingrich Revolution was on, taking the Senate, and sending a clear signal that times were going to change. Yet only 2 years later, you were still empowering your way to having a 12-year run as governor. I take nothing away from that. But, Democrats regrouped. Bill Clinton won the White House for a second term. So any lessons or reminders you want to pass along to fellow Republicans?
I think we are going to see another wave. I just saw a poll, 17% of Americans think we're headed in the right direction.
But will it last for Republicans?
Well, that's the question. We have to show we can govern.
Yeah.
I got elected. And it wasn't people saying he's great. They're rejecting the status quo. And I had to show that I could change things and run things well. And that's my message to Republicans. Don't just stop if you win on Tuesday. You have to show the people of this country and this state that you can run the country and you can run the state well. I'm confident we can do that. That's what we have to do. So it's not just a 1 month or 1 year or 2 year victory.
Yeah.
It's a change in the direction of the country, which is what we need.
You say yourself short, though, talking about it was really resentment about the incumbent governor. I thought was very appealing about your campaign style, whether people agreed with you politically or not. You were the same way, talking personally to supporters and your family as you were in the air talking to schmoes like me interviewing you. And I think people, don't appreciate how important that is.
Likability matters, and
I built a career on it.
I tried to. I don't know that it worked
out all right.
But I really think it is a factor, and in this case, I'm just highly optimistic about.
So you think the polls, the way they are understating the Zeldin support, just like they understated conservative support back in '94?
I think they're understating conservative and Republican support across the country. I think there are a great many voters on the right of center who just don't trust the institutions in this country. They look at what is happening with the FBI and at the border and with the administration.
Yeah. By the way, on that, I keep interrupting you.
No, that's
my crew
okay.
is getting angry at me.
But
here's one thing I do remember, Governor. You were. It was tight, the race, but you were not expected to win. But there clearly was a momentum in the last couple of days, similar to what we saw in the House, similar to what we saw in the Senate. Are you getting a sense of the same thing now?
I do. I had enormous momentum the last 4 or 5 days, and I needed it because people forget.
You did?
But Rudy Giuliani endorsed my opponent and campaigned around the state for him, and nobody knew who I was. So this Republicans was saying he's an awful guy.
That. You're absolutely right.
My numbers cratered.
Yeah.
But we just got our act together, said we're going to change this state. We're not going to get the incumbent powers, regardless of power, continue the decline of New York. And we had a massive turnout and a massive surge in the last 4 or 5 days, which is why I thought I was going to win.
I'd forgotten about it, but you never held a grudge with that. You just said, all right.
You look forward. As opposed to Joe Biden, who can't help but keep looking back 2 years. What about tomorrow? That's what the voters want to hear.
All right. Governor, good to see you. So just a reminder, it can happen, but it was remarkable, folks, going back to that time, because I covered that race. It was seemingly unthinkable. And I heard the consensus pollsters and experts all telling me the same thing. Pataki, nice guy, but he doesn't have a chance. I hear it today about Lee Zeldin. Nice guy, doesn't have a chance. The one thing about history, we don't necessarily have to repeat it, but it sure does rhyme. So now and then we might want to pick up the rhyme. little more after this.